biggest problem in creating this game wasn't the design, and it wasn't financing it, and it wasn't figuring out how to get it, to work on the screen. It was, how does a group of people with completely different personalities, some of which really shouldn't even be together in the first place, how do we get along? How do we build a team?
Everything that's good, you kind of have to have a lot of bad things happen to make things even better.
If you work on a good movie, or a movie that was fun, or a game that was fun to create, it'll turn out like crap.
I say discussions, but they were actually yelling matches.
We're going to call Drew right now. We're calling him down to this conference room, and we're reading him a riot act.
One time I remember just hearing all this commotion and banging and stuff, and I didn't know what was going on, but I found out after the fact that I guess Drew was, it seemed like he was having a heart attack or something.
He blew his stack. He went nuts. He was screaming at us. He was going nuts. It was insane. Like, we saw a side of this man that we had never seen, I never want to see again. And he was like under such pressure to get this thing done. And afterwards, Vinny and I were just like, oh my God, what did we do?
December 6th, 1994. Things are beginning to slip. After more than 10 months have been spent planning and producing this project. 10 months. We're still lacking a clear engineering plan and a production schedule. I'm relying too heavily on other people to do it, and this is causing my feeling of desperation. I mean, I can't believe I wrote this in a notebook. This is like my diary. The only time that I really felt like I had real control was in the production of the video portion of the game. But actually, really, I didn't actually have any control at all, but I had a great relationship with Phil and with Aaron Strain and with Jonathan Fishman. Those guys were doing all the work. So it was really when I kind of gave control away to people that I trusted that I felt like I was in the most control. And that was when I had fun.
We had a set designer build an exact replica of that CG model that I had built, in full size, where we could film these live action sequences.
It was very eerie to be going through and seeing this stuff that you painted and kind of grossed yourself out on, and there it was as big as life.
When you play the game, you see us going between these things. In most cases, it's pretty seamless and it works.
We had these off-angle shots, which were kind of Moses goes to the mountaintop shot, which would tell you where you were in the game. We spent a lot of time taking the textures that we had just created, faux tabletops, 50s matchbooks, bills, eviction notices, and translating them from the game into real tangible objects that the actors could manipulate or act around and things like that.
In terms of casting, we got really lucky because, we didn't have any money. We weren't going to go to a traditional casting agency and get real talent.
Who is it?
We had to rely on local San Francisco theatrical talent that would work for scale.
You got some nerve coming up here at this hour.
So it was just potluck. Who would walk in the door that we could kind of latch onto and picture as these people? So we had every jamoke from all these theater companies in San Francisco coming in here and auditioning for us, and they were hilarious. Some of these people were just terrible. Or some of them were good stage actors, but just it wasn't going to work for the game.
I'd get suckered into actually playing a part as a stand-in just to block out a scene or something like that.
Jeez, let me in here. What's going on? Nothing. What do you want?
It's terrible. I mean, I'll never win an Oscar.
We were lucky that we found Michael Summers and Mike Gilliam and Susan Volkin, people who were cheap, who fit the roles well, and who were really easy to work with and took direction with.
There's a shadow from your face is falling onto Mike's face, so
try to stay over.
No, I don't want you to cheat over too far because we'll get into that same problem we had before. Just keep your head back up. I like you guys close together, but just a little bit more. A little bit back.
Oh, that's fine.
Michael Summers, when he walked in that day, I knew it. I think he was the last guy we saw. He was late for his audition. He was an absolute mess. He was all over the place.
Who is it?
And he had this just beautiful. We fell in love with him physically. Was he the right guy for the role of Roger Sams? Probably not. If you look at the movies and you look at the way he acts, he's like this Buster Keaton-esque, Chaplin-esque guy. He's a lot like Jim Carrey, and he bills himself that way. He's a physical, comedic type actor. He's long, he's lanky, he's got these just vivid facial expressions, and when he acts, that's how he acts. His body acts. He moves all over the place. His eyes bug out of his head. His arms, his hands, his shoulders, every part of his body is involved in every one of his scenes. And when you look at the opening movie, we were looking at it last night, we were just laughing hysterically. It's so over the top, which was always our mantra in game production. It was just like over the top, over the top, over the top, because these movies were so small and they were compressed, down to like these blurry little things. We were never sure that the characters' emotions were going to read through. So we always told everyone to just go crazy, go full bore, give it to us all, and it worked, I guess.
The space that we were doing the shooting in was really susceptible to a lot of noise. There was a big parking lot outside. We were right by a freeway off-ramp. A lot of good takes got really ruined because of that, unfortunately. Right outside of the room that we were in were the bathrooms. And, every time somebody flushed the toilet, the pipes would start knocking.
At first, we collected animals on our own. I remember a very early experiment we did with spiders on the blue screen. We found some spiders, brought them into the studio, put them on the blue screen, and I remember the first spider vaporized instantly under the lights. It was just gone in a puff of smoke. Then we had to adjust the lights and figure that out. And we had like a little piece of glass, and the spider was crawling on the glass. That was not going to work. Filming spiders was just not going to work.
If we're going to make a game about cockroaches, we needed to know what cockroaches look like, how they behaved, what they did, and so we had we had a little zoo at the office.
So the first place we got animals was the South Carolina Biological Supply Company, which is this, wonderful catalog and website where you can buy things for the classroom. And in that catalog was something that just made our eyes light up. There was the Cockroach Kit. Ostensibly, a classroom would study the life cycle of a cockroach, and kids would watch it or whatever. I don't know what the hell this thing would be used for. They would send you 6 cockroaches in a little cup with some paper towels in it. We bought one of these cockroaches kits and created this terrarium of horrors.
You'd always keep a little water in the bottom for them to drink, and then they ate dog food. So I had this bag of dog food, and every week I'd put a little more dog food in there. And we'd get to watch them. We'd get to watch them live and eat and multiply.
It got gross in a hurry.
We must have had 2,000 cockroaches in this little aquarium that was sealed on top.
We'd point out the little pregnant ones, and we'd see the little egg sacs, and we'd watch them hatch, and we'd see these babies, and then it was amazing.
Just a squalid, horrible environment.
I needed to clean out this cage and get the dead ones out and clean the roach poo out of it and everything. So if you open it up, they all run out. So what I figured out is if I took the little terrarium and stuck it in the freezer for about 15-20 minutes, all the live ones would all hide and huddle into these wooden slats and start moving really slow and protect themselves. Then I'd go up to go out to the street, out to a garbage can, and I could shake out all the dead ones and hose out the little bottom of the terrarium and put them back in. So I did this for like a year, and they just wouldn't stop, living.
And we had these cockroaches in there that we would study. The artist would sit there, look at the cage, look at how the roach moves, look at the sheen on the back of the roach's, carapace and stuff, and we'd watch the roach move and how it would tip and roll. And that's how we got the roach to look the way it looked, was, with these Carolina biological cockroaches.
They gave me some mice to play with, basically. So I brought my remote recorder over there and tried to get sound out of one mouse. And it took some coaxing, but I was able to get some squeaks.
I did not want there to be this stiff-looking rubber rat. Didn't want to make a rat in 3D. At the time, you couldn't do fur or hair in 3D. It just wasn't doable. And it had to be hyper-realistic. So I knew that we would have to get a live rat. Did not want a pet shop rat, not a white one, not a black one. Wanted a real Norway rat.
And one day, as a practical joke, Vinny brought this bag in, and it was a paper bag, and it had one of these little cat toys in it that rolls around. It's like a little ball that goes all crazy. And he's like, I got a rat. And he throws it on the floor, and it just takes off and starts skidding around, and people were just freaking out. They really thought it was a rat.
It was our original goal not to harm any animals during the production of the game.
There was this awful, awful day where it wasn't awful, it was just gross, okay? Vinny got a dead rat.
I called various exterminating companies here in the city, and I said, listen, this is gonna sound crazy, but I'm shooting a movie here in the city. I need a rat that's been freshly killed. Can you get me one? 9 out of 10 people hung up on me. I got a call. Came like 12 o'clock in the afternoon one day. There was the exterminator truck sitting in front of a restaurant. There was this big Aussie, this Australian guy, who was the exterminator. Oh, we got a big one here for you. This guy's huge. We found him in a crate of cantaloupe. What do you want me to do with it, mate? And I was like, I can't use it alive. So he takes the rat, and smashes it against the side of his pickup truck, just like, and kills it. It's dead. There you go. Put it in a Ziploc bag. We raced back to the office as if we were holding like some kidney for organ transplantation.
We took pictures of the rat in every single possible pose. I think that very few Victoria's Secret models get the kind of love that this rat did, because we knew that it was going to rot and stink by the end of the day.
We only harmed animals that were sort of on death row anyway. You know, I mean, we went to a fish market in Chinatown in San Francisco for the Catfish. And you know, if you've ever been to one of these places, there are all these squalid tanks where there are like soft-shell turtles and various types of fish and delicacies. And in one tank was just a big tank full of catfish. And I remember saying, I need 2 catfish. The guy didn't speak English. We were communicating with hand gestures. And I was like, no, alive, because they were gonna kill them right there for us. I said, no, I want them alive. You want them alive? So yeah, then they had some conference behind the counter as to whether or not they can give us live catfish, and they finally agreed to give us live catfish. We put them in a bag, brought them home, and I wound up beheading and gutting the fish myself, which we have on video, I believe. But you know, those catfish were going to be killed right there in an awful way by that Chinese butcher. So I don't really feel bad about killing the catfish. It wasn't like, you know, there was no chance of there being a born free moment here. So we had a cat trainer come in. And she brought 3 cats with her in cages, and we would evaluate the cats that day to find out which cat was behaving, you know, well enough to actually work that day. Because they get all moody, they're insane, they're cats. And they don't feed these things, you know, the day before the shoot, and they perform based on reward. You know, they love these little chunks of smoked turkey, and that's how they do their little things. And you know, it was a huge deal. We paid more attention to this cat and the various issues revolving around this cat than any other like talent-related issue. You know, we had to have, there was a huge debate as to whether or not we needed cat insurance.
That's a very hairy cat.
From that day onward, any boondoggle-esque ridiculous issue was referred to as the cat insurance issue. Like if anyone went down some ridiculous trail, we were like, hey man, that's just cat insurance.